Hey everyone, this is Isaac. I'm CEO at Trullion, and today on AI Accounting Intelligence, we'll be talking with real people about real things related to AI and the impact on the accounting industry. Stay tuned.
Welcome everyone. Today I'm very excited. We've got Artie Minson here. Artie is a friend, an advisor, an investor, and really someone who's an accomplished CFO and now CEO. So Artie, good to have you. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us in a nutshell about this kind of amazing journey you've had. Obviously, we could read online, but in your words.
Yeah, I came up through the finance ranks, ex Big Six at the time. Started my career at Ernst & Young in the audit practice. Focused on really media and tech. In the beginning parts of my career, eventually got my MBA, and then came up through the finance ranks at initially Time Warner, and through a series of years, eventually became CFO of AOL when Time Warner took that out as a public company, became the COO there. Went back and became the CFO of Time Warner Cable. And then after we sold Time Warner Cable, sort of entered the startup world. I was the president and COO, and then president and CFO, and eventually became the CEO, co-CEO at WeWork. And then about a year ago, I joined LeafLink, which is basically the regulated marketplace for cannabis in the U.S., and we have about 50% share of the regulated cannabis marketplace in the U.S.
That's awesome. So auditor, CFO, president, CEO, that's a dream journey. And then I must say, between AOL, Time Warner, WeWork, and now LeafLink, you're at the crosshairs of a lot of cool stories and industries and moments in history, let's say. Like, I'm curious about going back to that audit start. The start of the public audit career, Ernst & Young. Tell me, I guess, a little bit about how the perception of audit you feel has changed, maybe for like a university student coming out and becoming an auditor, maybe for, I guess, adults, and now you're a parent with kids thinking about their career, a little bit about the outlook and even the prestige of becoming an auditor now versus then.
Yeah, look, it's an incredible training ground for folks to, spend, a number of years in your career. And some good friends of mine are still there as senior partners. But you just get, such great training from an early age. I think, at 23, I had staff, reporting to me, and I had, very sort of set levels of sort of responsibility and things that I was responsible for. And I, reported up to people who were very senior at the firm. I interacted with senior members of our client, and just things, you couldn't have gotten if you went, quote unquote, in-house, at a very early age. So for me, it was just the perfect training ground. The profession's obviously changed a lot. When I went into it, you still had the ability to frankly go work for a client. That's frankly how I got my job at Time Warner. I had been on the audit. They knew me. I'd done a good job, and when they needed to bring someone in, I was sort of a proven commodity. Obviously, that has changed a lot over time, as has, frankly, the more hours required now to get your degree and be certified. But I think that also, and anyone who sort of has been through public knows what it takes for someone to get certified, spend 3, 5, 7 years in public accounting, and the training that people get there. So I'm always sort of incredibly respectful of, the skill set that, when we go out and hire and I get, a resume from someone who's been at a public accounting firm, it's just a testament to what I know has been a lot of hard work to get there.
That's great. So you heard it from Artie, that public audit, that big brand, on the resume, still carries. Now, in your crystal ball, your kids, your friends' kids, people in high school, college going into the public audit. Do you think that holds, in the future? I mean, and now maybe having the lens of someone who's been a CFO, worked with auditors, worked with new crops of accounting, seen like the FP&A world evolve and all these other areas. I mean, do you have a sense of the outlook? Do you still think it carries that prestige? Right? There's obviously a lot.
Yeah, I do. I think, again, if you look at, the percentage of, I think, sitting CFOs who still, are certified or have some background in accounting, you to be a CFO, you need to either have acquired that, knowledge, audit like knowledge, either in school, or you're going to have learned it on the job. So it's obviously a lot easier to have learned it in school and, then, begin to apply it in the real world. I think, the things that I was lucky enough to do sort of coming up through auditing was do a lot of different things. I think this concept of like specialization was something I was able to sort of, avoid. I specialized in I guess in industry, and that I did a lot of sort of media and tech, but I saw a lot of different clients. I saw different parts of those clients. We were involved in a lot of different financings at the time. We were involved in, systems implementations at the time, lots of things that, just sort of broaden your skill set so that if and when, you got to, have a bigger job or a seat at the table on the finance side, you had seen a lot. So I always sort of say to people, like, try to get as many different experiences as you can, spend some time in accounting, spend some time in financial planning, understand treasury and the capital markets piece of it, understand taxes, understand risk management. You have to, everyone has some area of expertise that they fall back on, which was sort of like maybe the original thing they don't, but try as best you can to get exposed to lots of different areas. And you can do that in audit. You got to work at it, but you can do that.
Got it. Very nice. So, I mean, it's almost like we control our destiny still a little bit. Like, no matter.
Yeah, I always say, like, look, you are the CEO of your career. Like, no one else is, CEO of your career for you. You have to know what it is you want to do and have a plan. And some people's plan may be, look, I want to be, a partner in this firm. Others may be, I want to be a CFO. I want to be a CEO. And then, look at sort of those paths that people have taken to get to that job. I think you'll see that, they did a lot of different things. They took risks with their career. They have a broad set of experiences, sometimes things they've done outside of finance and accounting, but those are the people that you find who take some risks, who, wind up getting that broad experience that they can then, take into, a chief accounting officer or a CFO or CEO job.
Got it. Awesome. So here you go. I mean, you heard it from Artie, because, public audit and just audit and accounting in general has taken a bit of a beating, if I may say, especially the past few years post-COVID. There's been some questions and stuff, but it sounds like whether it's the big six or the big four or the big eight, or whether it's Enron or SVB, whatever we're talking about, we're always going to critically need good auditors. And then on the personal side, it's up to, people to kind of determine their career, get a lot of variety if you can, as much as possible. But these challenges that come up today are challenges that have always come up, right? And the industry is very much in need, which I think is good. Now, and also kind of reassuring. You never want to think that there's like these big kind of shifts on the horizon that you need to retool or rethink what you're doing. At the same time, I mean, we're sitting here at Trullion at the crosshairs of technology and AI and accounting, and ChatGPT has come out lately, right? And these large language models. So I guess, at a high level, I guess you're wearing your former auditor, CFO hat, and now CEO hat. What's that reaction when you see ChatGPT, when you start hearing about AI? What does it feel like?
I view it as a tool that um, companies need to avail themselves of and make sure it is being used for us to do things more efficiently, and are there ways that, there's ways I can use it across all areas of my business, whether it's like, frankly, a speech we want to write, a policy, we want to think about with respect to cannabis, to, analyzing financial statements. There's all things that you look at and you say, like, I can use this to do things more efficiently. I think, what you have to be careful of, I think, is when people look at these things of like, this is the solution to all of the world's problems. Machines been trying to predict the weather for a long time, and they still can't predict the weather. And I think when you think about, just they are a tool, but those tools need to be, trust but verify. And I think you just have to be understand for what it is and understand what for what it isn't. I don't think it is the solution to all our problems.
Got it. Okay, so and we definitely agree. So then the question becomes, to what extent can it help specifically in accounting? And I guess so that's one question, right? And maybe just even more broadly, like, how big of an impact, maybe even theoretically or in high level terms, could it have on both the audit and the accounting profession? Meaning incremental, big time, could change the business models, like somewhere on that spectrum. And then
Yep.
I guess if you can, second, like, I want to try to figure out if it's different now than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Meaning, I remember when, my friend brought home a touchscreen Home Pilot. And I'm pretty sure it was 10 years before the iPhone came out, right? But it didn't pick up at that time. It wasn't ready. The ecosystem wasn't ready, whatever it is. So what's the magnitude of where we're sitting right now?
Yeah, I think there's a couple interesting things in what you said there, and I'll hit a few of them. One is, you talked about the iPhone, and look, I've spent a lot of my career working with entrepreneurs, like yourself, or ones in media, tech, and real estate. And the interesting thing is, like, machines aren't going to come up with the idea for Trullion. They're not going to come up for the idea for WeWork. They're not going to come up with the idea for the iPhone. Like, that's what makes humans humans. What they can do is, help you sort of be more efficient as you think about running your business. So as we think about, at LeafLink, like, yes, to the extent, that a tool can allow us to read a contract, which in 20 seconds, rather than, hours of our lawyers and accountants going on and identify the key issues, that's something that frankly frees people up to do, more important analysis, or to the extent that, it can go through, again, our audited financial statements or the audited financial statements of a peer or company we're looking to do a deal with, and identify, like, these are just some issues and questions you should look into. um, that is helpful. But I think it's important to just, it's like any tool you sort of have in your arsenal. It's not the only one you should use.
Got it. Okay, so now full circle. Auditing, is at least as far as I know, much better than your peers. It's a process that's based on a methodology. A lot of times it's using statistical sampling. If the promise of AI is the ability to consume much more data in a much faster speed, with much more accuracy, is that enough to change the way the audit is done? For a couple examples, does it move to full coverage, and what kind of impact would that have, just being able to consume all the data? And maybe another thing would be, does AI in particular help audit move to more real time, or I guess more smooth? Because we all know it's April 17th right now. There's people that still haven't come out of their desk closets in a few weeks. So
yeah, no, I think those are two great points. I think you probably do have the ability at least to certainly expand your sample size, if not fully expand it to include all transactions. On the timing and sort of having it in real time, I think there's certain things that, and certain items that you always sort of need in real time. And I feel like there are a lot of tools that people have at their disposable, at their, fingertips, for real time. I think this again will certainly help that. So in things, when you mention though of like what it could help, probably the more robust uh, around expanding just statistical sampling and having it be full breadth of data set. I think that is a very interesting one.
good, very interesting. And maybe like one last just big picture topic. Let's say you do expand that using AI, expand that statistical sampling to like a full sample population, right? Now we take that and we think about a couple of events. We go back, I'm from Texas, so Enron was what I remember, growing up. And then now we've got SVB, which was not on the, it's a different situation, but and that wasn't necessarily audit or fraud in the way Enron was, but we keep having these things come up where literally companies get wiped out because
Yep.
there was inherent risk, whether it was fraudulent or just, I don't know what you call bank run, but unpredictable to some extent.
Yep.
I guess first of all, number one, is accounting and audit more crucial than ever right now, or is it just the same as it always was? And number two, is there a light in the tunnel with AI and with technology? And are those connected, I guess?
Yeah. So the interesting thing again is, when you think about Enron, and I only know from what I read, and I remember reading like the smartest guys in the room, but some of the things they did is they wrote, a lot of the things they wrote were like to get themselves in compliance with a narrow set of rules. And this is where, I was sort of saying you need the human and the machine element, because to some extent, I'm not sure if you put it through an AI, whether a machine would say, yeah, they were, some of the way these things were structured, with the 3% equity you needed at the time to deconsolidate. Like, yeah, they checked all the boxes in the rules, but when you stood back from it, you're like, as a human, you're like, this doesn't make any business sense. And you needed that sort of human overlay. So I think that again is it's just interesting, because I think again in the future you're going to absolutely need both in that. And then when you think about again where accounting and is it as important as ever, I think the stakes, I guess, are just generally higher because companies are bigger, and in these sort of, you have more of these too big to fail scenarios. And so in those instances, we've become rightly, wrongly, more reliant on some of these very large companies that tend to sort of dominate spaces. And, when you have an SVB and literally like every startup banks with SVB, it has become, even though it's, in the 20 biggest banks in the startup world, it is the biggest bank, and it becomes sort of too big to fail. And so yeah, just overall, when things go sideways now, it just feels like they're exponential of sort of when I was coming up, just because there's more sort of at times single points of failure in the system.
Got it. So is potentially becoming more complex, could be more imperative than ever if accounting complexity, right, and technology are the coyote and roadrunner. Is AI going to help technology, catch up enough to be able to keep up with the accounting standards? Or are we just in this continual chase that never ends? Or are we just going to find out?
Well, probably reality is we're going to find out, because it is interesting that AI is really probably only as good as the history it has seen up to that point. So now it will have learned from SBB, and when there's another scenario like that in the future, it'll help predict it. But we have not cracked the code, I feel like, on fully predicting these things before they happen.
Yeah, I think you're right. Otherwise, some stock market predictors would be making a lot of money with some AI bots.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the bigger world than us. Well, good, Artie. Anything else? This has been great catching up with you a little bit about the professional side and then the AI side. Anything else? Big picture, accounting, audit.
Look, the world's always going to need really good accountants and good accounting tools. That has gone on for thousands of years. So, I think I still feel it's an incredible profession, and I'm thrilled, that I was able to start my career in it.
Awesome. Well, thank you. That's Artie Minson, President and CEO of LeafLink. We appreciate your support of Trullion, of course. And thanks again for your time.
All right. Take care.
Take care.